Hi, Blessing. Good afternoon.
Hi, Tolu. Good afternoon.
All right, great. So thank you so much for coming around today again. Like
Thank
yesterday, it's a big pleasure um, to be able to do this. Okay, great. I guess one more person is joining. But before we proceed, I'll get to do a bit of recap on some of the things you picked up yesterday.
Okay, I should talk about what I learned yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, yesterday was eye-opening. The questions that were asked were questions I've not really taken time to think of. So it made me sorry. My background is it's not noisy, but there's a little bit of noise.
That's fine.
Okay, so I was able to like dig deep down into what I do and then got like a little perception of what I'm doing. Then I learned about what branding entails. You said that branding can either be personal or corporate, and you also gave us good examples of personal brands and corporate brands. So I took my time to I know Uche Go. I've been hearing of course, but I'm not taking my time to study her. I know about Blessing Abeng. I follow her work, and Adekunle Good. I love this work. So it was really I took our time to like look at what these people really do, how they've branded themselves. So I think for me, it's more of like me now trying to think of how can I position myself to brand myself better like these people. So that's where I'm at currently. And then yes, she spoke about the question they asked about from point A to point B. I said we're going to talk about the in-betweens today. So I'm looking forward to the in-betweens they are going to speak about today. So that's it from me.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. Alanka, welcome. You weren't around yesterday. I would share the recordings of the class after today's class. But you're welcome. I hope you'll be able to catch up. You should, right? Like Blessing mentioned, what we did yesterday was more like an overview of branding. We got to remind ourselves of what branding is, because I do not assume that there's no one in the room who doesn't know what branding is. So I believe it's more or less a recap of some of the things you might have already known, or some of the things you know but didn't know that they were called branding. And we surmised that branding involves all of the activities or all of the efforts put into ensuring that a particular perception is strengthened, or people have a particular perception about you. For Blessing, who is a brand designer and brand communications person, when you interact with people for the first time, or when people come in contact with your work, there should be a certain perception that is consistent, or there should be a certain perception that you want to be consistent in the minds of people. What I didn't mention yesterday was how to differentiate a good brand from a bad brand. But before I proceed, let me just ask, does anybody know how to differentiate a good brand from a bad brand? Yinka, Blessing. To be sure there wasn't a message dropped in the chat. Are you guys here? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I would like to try how to differentiate a bad brand from a good brand. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, give it a shot.
Okay, so a good brand is a brand that okay, I think personally for me, for branding is you like kind of educating people how you want them to perceive you. Like you are the one that creates the perception you want them to have in your mind. You don't wait for people to create that perception for you. It is your job to educate them of that perception you have in your mind. Like Piggyverse now, Piggyverse wanted us to trust them. So I don't know how they did it, but me like this, I'm a diehard fan of Piggyverse because they've been able to sell trust to me. So I did not have to try and learn to perceive it. I feel like they were able to make me know that blessing, you can trust us. You can able to educate me rightly as a what would I call myself now? As a user to trust their products. So when it comes to bad personal branding, when you leave branding for the people to just perceive you or your brand how they like. You don't give them a clear control of what they are looking at. So I met Ucheogo some time ago, and it was wearing a blue, like he's always wearing blue. I don't know, but I knew he was the one. Even when I went to come, he was like, "I'm not Ucheogo." I was like, "No, you are Ucheogo." Like, I was like, you're always wearing blue. I always see blue in your post. It was not that this is that. It wasn't like he was just playing. You see, so the thing is that he has over time he's been able to educate me, even though it is not over, but a very subtle education that this is who I am, this is what I represent. So when it comes to that's what I feel like good branding is. But then bad branding is when you just leave your perception to people to just feel as they like. You don't put things in place to educate people, whether subtle or I don't know how best, but I think that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, Blessing, thank you. I think I actually love the way you differentiated good brands from bad brands. So simply, there are no, in simple terms, like in, should I say naturally, there are no good brands or bad brands, right? But how we can classify if a brand is doing a good job or is doing a terrible job at branding is, now remember that branding is something that has to do with perception, just like you mentioned. It's something that happens in the mind of people. So when a particular brand has a consistent perception in the minds of majority of its target audience, then that brand is doing a good job. When a particular brand has an inconsistent perception in the minds of majority of its audience, that brand is doing a terrible job. Just like you mentioned, Carriwise, Piggyverse. If you Piggyverse target audience are Africans, that's one, youths in Africa for the now, right? And when if you take a stock, if you bring 10 people and ask 10 of them, hey, do you use Piggyverse? What do you think about it? If they have a similar perception about the brand, then that brand is doing a good job, right? 10 is like a handful out of the whole, out of the lot size, but that should be a good judge of if this particular brand is doing an amazing job at controlling or influencing the perception in the minds of people. It's the same way if you put 10 people in a room and ask. So now it can be in various ways. You can test the should I call it the strengths of a brand's work in several ways. One of the ways I do that is actually by taking stock of the perception in a room. So if you claim that you are serving this particular audience, so if I bring 5 random or 10 random persons from that target audience, one, the first question is, do they know who you are? 2, if they know who you are, do they have a consistent, does a majority of, let me say 7 out of 10, or at least 6 out of 10 of those people, do they have the same idea concerning you? And those are like the top two that I use to actually judge if a brand is actually doing a good job. And it's something I've also experimented on myself. And it's something a few other persons have, when we spoke, it's something that they've also used to judge if they've been doing a good job in driving home a particular narrative, or in driving home a particular narrative, or getting people to believe a particular thing about them. And like the example you mentioned, Uche Ugo, yes, he wears blue a lot. And in a conversation with him, he said that it's actually very, very intentional, how that he uses blue in his designs, and majority of the time you would see him wearing blue. So it's almost weird. So he posted a picture a few days ago, and I'm like, this is weird. It's weird seeing you on any other color aside from blue. It's almost as if he doesn't have any other clothes in his wardrobe, apart from maybe a blue suit, a blue turtleneck, a blue round neck, a blue native. You just see blue, even down to the pouch on his phone. It's blue. And I had a similar occurrence when I met him in Lagos for the first time. And like, hey, my name is Tolu. I asked, hey, are you Uche Ugo? And he was like, no, my name is Michael. And I'm like, oh, okay, but you look like Uche Ugo.
That's the same thing he told me. Can you imagine? I was so sure it was him. I was almost confused.
Yeah. So that day I lost. I wasn't able to. I was like, okay, but I really thought you were Uche Ugo, and that's why I approached you. But it's fine. And then when I was about to go, it was like, oh, it was like, no, okay. I was with a set of people that he knows, or he knew. I was with Victor on that day, and I was like, oh, I was actually hanging out with Victor, and they pointed that you were passing, and they wanted to like talk to you. So, but it's fine if you're not the person. I was like, oh, Victor, which Victor? I'm like, oh, then I explained to Victor, and I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm actually with Hugo, and I'm like, God. But yeah, so today would be talking about the in-betweens. Basically, when I mean in-betweens, so we talked about point A to point B yesterday. The in-between is basically you now putting pen to paper and building a structure that you can apply. So brand communication is just the execution phase of strategy, right? It involves mapping out all the components of your strategy that needs to be activated. It involves creating action points for the plan you have curated. Now, I said that after defining A and B, communications involve creating the in-betweens. The in-betweens include, but are not limited to, people you would have to meet, things you would need to learn, access, and privileges you need to acquire, jobs, etc. So the in-betweens is basically, it's let me call them components. It's as though you have a, when I was young, much younger, I'm still young, my uncle sent us a box of games, and inside the box of games was a jigsaw puzzle, right? So branding is like having the full picture, having an idea of what you want to create. You know, in the box of a jigsaw puzzle, there's like the bigger image, the bigger picture you have to walk around, and then there are these tiny pieces scattered all around. And then you have to carefully and systematically put together all those pieces with the bigger picture as a reference point. So that's just a simple illustration to define or to tell the difference between what you do in brand comms and what brand strategy actually about. Brand strategy is you creating the plan. When you now begin to apply it, you're actually now doing brand comms. So that's why I said initially that everybody, or that's why I said yesterday that everybody, I believe everybody needs to understand brand strategy. And they're also much more than that. They also need to understand brand communications, because it's one thing drawing out a plan. It's another thing to be able to implement the plans that you have put together. So drawing out your roadmap, the essence of a roadmap is to be able to measure how much you've traveled and the relative distance to where you are going to. So this roadmap you are creating is a living document that can be updated. I know I mentioned this yesterday, and even evolve as you gain clarity about where you want to be, which is your point B. And the roadmap is also essential. Peradventure, you want to also guide people through the same path you walked. It comes in handy. So this is basically the job of a chief branding officer or a communication strategist in an organization. This is actually directed to you, Blessing. If you would eventually want to work as a communications person for any organization of your choosing, or you don't want to be that person that helps them to implement strategy, one of the things you need to be able to do is to understand their roadmap, understand where the organization is coming from, and understand where it's going to, and understand where it is presently, and then look through. Your job is more like your job is almost like a CEO's job, who bets a vision and ensures that that vision and is able to move pieces around to ensure that that vision comes to pass or is achieved. And that's why he would go ahead to hire maybe a CMO, a marketing officer, because he thinks like, okay, if we do marketing right, we'll be able to get sales right. He would go ahead to hire a brand designer. If we get our visuals right and it aligns with how we want to be perceived, then I think we can also improve the perception and maybe sort of build trust in the community or in the market that we are going into. So understanding brand comms is you basically knowing how to move the pieces of or the components or the in-betweens in your roadmap, how to move them and actually how to activate them. So they sort of light up a path from your A to B. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
All right.
None yet.
All right, cool. So I have a story I would like to share. Right? It's one of the lessons I picked up from a book I was reading a while back, Extreme Ownership. So it's about the training of certain category of soldiers, the SEAL team, actually, Shana, the SEAL team, but a certain category of soldiers. And in one of their training regiments, they had an exercise whereby they had to carry a heavy boat from a starting point to a finishing line and carry it back. And they had like 6 groups, and each of the groups were like, it was sort of like a competition. But I noticed that one group was always winning. One group was always, in all the tasks that were given prior to that time, one group was always coming out tops, and they needed to be sure, or it was sort of like a test for leadership, but they needed to be sure why it was this group that was consistently winning. So what they did was that they switched the leaders in the group and took the leader of the losing team and made him the head of the winning team, and put the head of the winning team and made him the head of the losing team. And before the end of all of the training regiments that were left, the losing team came second, and the winning team was struggling to keep its first place. I think they ended up as 3rd or 4th. Now, then they went on to ask the guy, the leader of the guy that eventually brought the team at the last to second, and they ended up asking him, how far? How did you do it? What's like the secret? And he said that what he did was that he was able to break down the whole journey from the starting line to the finish line into he broke the race, or he broke it into, let me call them milestones, or sort of breaking points. Breakdown, right? But let's use the word milestones. And so instead of the whole team looking towards getting to the finish line. Because the training is meant to be exhausting. So you are actually meant to be very exhausted. And so a lot of times in situations like that, where people are pushed to their extremes, instincts just take over. And sometimes people will just go back to their instinctive nature. They wouldn't think so much about what to do next. They'll just go back to whatever instincts tell them. And that's why when you find out a lot of people that have big plans, when they are pressured and things do not go the way that it's supposed to go, they just fall back to instincts. And if by instincts, what they normally do when things don't go well is to just shut down. You find that someone that had a lot of plans, maybe career-wise or in terms of his business, when things are not going well, he just shuts down. He just goes into his shell, and for a term that has been popularly used in these times, falls into depression, and he starts telling that he's going through a lot. So what this team lead did was that he broke the whole competition or the whole race into breaking points that will sort of give the team a boost in morale. So you don't have to look at it that, oh, we are falling behind. We've not gotten to the finish line yet, and we are like 6th place. So what he made them do is that, so from A to, let me say from A to A1, let's get A1. Let's put all our efforts to reach A1. Then from A1 to A2, let's put all our efforts to get to A2. So each time they passed a breaking point, they felt that sense of achievement, and it just boosted their morale that they can put in their best to get the next job done. They can put in their best to get the next job done. So instead of making the goal look far away, they broke it down into bits that were sensible or that were realistic and achievable. People who draw business plans will tell you that when you're drawing up a business plan, your business plan needs to be smart. It needs to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, and stuff like that. That's a very good strategy. That's a very good strategy to also leverage. So in drawing up your roadmap, you have 2 key points: your point A, which is your starting point, and your point B, which is where you want to get to. And as I said earlier, the major work, the bulk of the work after defining your 2 anchor points, is specifying what you need to do in between that would get you from point A to point B. Which leads to this next point. But before I proceed, do we have questions?
Sorry, you mentioned smart.
Yes.
You mentioned measurable. How is it go measurable? Like what was it?
All right. You determine the yardstick, the metric to measure success.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah. Okay. You ain't done. Okay, come again.
I said the measured parts. You said smart, that your goals have to be smart, and then talked about measurable. Like I said, how can you measure your goal? Like, is it the distance of your goal? Like, okay, how can I cover this goal? Is that what you mean by measurable, or what's up?
No, that's not what I mean. Measurable, it's okay. Firstly, you determine the metric of success for each goal that you draw up. And so you determine the metrics, right? Let me give an example. What do you do, Yinka?
I'm a fashion designer, sir.
All right, so you're a fashion designer. When you pick up a person's measurement, or a person converses with you and he needs to get a design of a particular clothes or a particular fashion piece out of his head, or he needs something. Run me through, how do you go through the process?
If the customer wants a particular design, or if he does not even have a design, or because there's some people that they know what they want, but they don't just know how to like express it to you. So first I take their measurement, because we have like a general way of taking measurements, even for almost all designs. So when I take their measurements, I ask them what do they want. Some people will tell you that they want something simple, like this, like this. Some will tell you that they don't even know what they want. So I run them through pictures of styles that we have, or that we have done like our own previous jobs. And if they still cannot find like that, I'll ask them, what's the image you are seeing on your head? Like, what's that thing that you want me to create for you? If you tell me, okay, this, like you, the person should tell me like list of things that you want. Like, okay, maybe you just want it simple, you want the design to not be too plenty, or if you should give me what you want. So me, I will source for designs like that, either the ones that have been done or the ones I will create.
All right.
So I have like a designer that I work with. So I can just tell him, please, can you help me do this on Marvelous Design, like create something like this. Then if I send it to the person, if that's what the person wants, then we can start working.
All right, cool. Now, I'm going to take your whole process and I'm going to ask you specific questions from it. Now, step one is to take the person's measurements, right? Is that step one?
Yes.
Okay, so according to you, step one is to take the person's measurement. But somewhere in my head, step one is actually having the conversation with the person about what the person wants.
Okay.
So then, which leads you to step two. Now, how do you know that step one is complete? How do you judge that step one is complete and I need to take this? I mean, I said, how do you judge that step one is complete and you need to take this person's measurements? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's breaking. Network is breaking.
Okay, sorry. Let me repeat myself. How do you judge that step one is complete and you need to take this person's measurement, which is step two?
If the person is if the person's design is okay, design the person wants. But most times, you just take the person's measurements first, like, because most of the time, the people that want to sew from you, they'll still end up like if we even before we bargain price, because it is the design that determines.
Okay.
Price you are going to. You understand what I'm trying to say? We bargain price. If his design is something we can do or something we can create, I feel that we can go ahead to take the measurements.
Okay, cool. So I'll just let me then combine the talking stage or the client briefing stage and your taking of measurement as step one. So yes, how would you define done for taking of measurements?
Like I'm done taking measurements. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. How would you define done? Taking of measurement is a step and it's a process. So how would you define done for this particular step?
After taking the measurements, like me, I have the measurements now. Then we'll proceed talking about the price. Like, okay, this is
calm down. One step at a time. How would you define done for taking of measurements?
How do I define being done of taking the measurements?
Yes.
I have to have the measurements with me. Like the measurement is already with me already.
All right. So for that task, taking of measurements, your goal is I have to have the measurements with me, which means that I need to know the size of his or the length of his legs. I need to know maybe how wide his chest is if it's a guy. I need to know the length that he wants, like the length of his arms, how much space he needs in between, like how much. Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
All right, cool. So you're going to have that your notepad down where you're writing so bust 3 or 40 centimeter, arm length, centimeter. That's what you are doing. Taking down those details is your metric of success for that particular process called taking of measurements.
Okay, I get.
So, yes. So most times what we do is to combine the whole process and then it becomes cumbersome to us. Instead of seeing each activity that we need to do as steps that leads towards a final goal. The final goal is your final goal can be you actually sewing clothes for this client or converting this client, which means that he has paid his money and you need to get him, you need to now deliver his clothes to him. That might be your final goal, right? Or maybe your final goal might be, oh, you saw a mother's design for him and you want him to be a repeat customer. So depending on what your final goal is for that particular client. But, to get there, you have measurable steps, which is step 1, maybe talk with this client and take his measurements. Successfully taking his measurements means that I have how wide his chest is and all of the other details I need to be able to make a cloth for him. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So that's what it means when I say measurable. See, so that task was actually very specific. It is measurable. It's something you could do within a set time. Let's say to take you roughly 10 to 15 minutes to take one person's measurement. So, as a fashion designer, you can carve out a particular day and tell all your clients to come into your office, or that you would go and meet all your clients, and your task for that day would be fitting, or taking of measurements. So you know that, okay, I have 10 clients, I need to get their measurements, 15 minutes for each of them. It will take me you have something that is measurable by time. That's how to create one, which is talking with the client. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, but the network is breaking.
Sorry.
You are breaking up, but I can hear you. Hi, Tolu. I can't hear you.
Hi, are we back?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, cool. Thank you. Inka, you get
Yes, sir.
you get that illustration carefully. It does justice to your question, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Blessing, that works for you too, right? Do you have specific questions as concerning that?
Okay, so my question is, so we've been talking about brand strategy, brand design. What exactly is the scope of the work of a brand communication strategist? Then you're saying something that when a company hires you, you're supposed to help them make sales. So how do you use your knowledge of what brand strategy is? Because that's like marketing. So how do you use your brand knowledge to actually like help brands make sales? So yes, those are my two questions.
Okay. So in some cases, you are not a sales expert. And
Okay.
when you get into an organization, you should be able to define your metric of success for your role. Now, if you have a CMO or a marketing officer, or you're working in the marketing department, then your marketing makes sales possible, but marketing is not sales. They're different. An example of marketing would be hosting a webinar, putting up a billboard. Those are like marketing strategies. Hosting a ask me anything session, right? Writing a long Twitter thread or writing a long Twitter thread, coming up with a one-liner. All of these things aid marketing because they sort of drive home a particular perception that makes sales possible, that convinces the customer that, oh, I should purchase. But a sales expert or a salesman is the person who is responsible for ensuring or for closing the deal. With all of the resources you've made available, that person is required to be able to close the deal. Now, when you get into a company as a communication strategist or a brand person or a brand designer, your job is not to sell. Your job is to make selling possible by influencing perception, either by your design or by the type of content you create or prescribe. Because in a larger environment, or let's say if you work with a team, with a large team where they have resources, your job would be to prescribe. Would be like, hey, you tell the content person, hey, we need this particular content and we need it to sound like this. You tell the designer, hey, we need this design and we need it to be able to communicate this and pass across this exact feeling. What you are doing is creating an environment that would make sales possible, but your job is not to sell. So, and it's a thin line, but it's something that they've wrongly used to judge our role as communication strategists or brands person or brand designers. And that's why you get into a company and you'll see maybe when you're doing your review, maybe a quarterly review or year-on-year review, you'd have conversations whereby they'll think your role is irrelevant because you are not directly moving the needle for the numbers. But if you know how your role influences the movement of numbers, which is creating an environment that makes sales possible, then you'd be able to justify and create metrics of success for your role. An example of metric of success for a brand communication role is just like the question I asked at the beginning. So if you put 10 people in a room and ask them, who is Ashan? Did I get it? Yinka, did I get the name? Or Ashane? Yinka on this call.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, cool. So if you put 10 people in a room in your target market and you ask, who is Ashan? First question, do they know who I am? 2, what perception do they have of me? Then 3, now that they have this perception of me, do they care about what I do? So that those are the yardsticks you can use to judge if your role or if all the things, your roadmap or all the things that you have put in place is actually working. Because branding is not sales. It helps sales, but it is not sales. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Blessing, do you understand?
Yes, I get.
Okay, cool. Now, let's proceed. So before we move on to the next stage, so we're talking about setting milestones. So one of the things that would aid you in setting your milestones, which is part of your, this is also a subset of creating your in-betweens, is documenting, putting things down. So it has a history of helping people to be able to pass ideas and thoughts even more efficiently. So I need to I want to use another person as an example. Blessing, you design, right?
Yes, I do.
All right, cool. What type of clients or what's the highest? You might not want to answer the question. Well, how much you can give me a range? How much the design costs? A range presently.
What kind of design? Is it a flyer design? Is it a brand design?
Let's use flyer.
Okay, I think the least I charge for a flyer is 5,000.
All right, cool. So I currently charge 5,000 naira for a flyer design. I want to charge 25K per flyer design.
Okay.
That's a journey. So I used 25K because 25K was the last amount I was paid for a flyer design when I was still designing. And I think this was 2021 or 2020, can't remember. And the first amount I was paid for a flyer design was 5K. So you can move from being paid, I have someone who does flyer designs 50K per flyer, and it's still the same thing, right? It's not using a different software. His software is not coming out from heaven. So I want to charge 25,000 naira per flyer. I'm currently at 5,000 naira per flyer. The in-betweens that you need to document would be something like, so what type of clients do I currently serve? The next question, what type of clients do I want to serve? How much do these people earn? Where can I find them? Which type of conversations do I need to be having with certain sets of people? Those are questions that you need to document, or those are questions that you need to put down. And when you begin to find answers to them, they become like a guiding light for you. So you know that if I want to move from charging 5K per flyer to 25K per flyer, these are the set of things I have to possibly do right. So like I mentioned here, there are no rules to documentation. The least expected of you is that when you come back to it, it makes sense to you and you understand the requirements at that time and what you need to do next. So that's like, so just like the illustration I gave about the SEAL team who were running or we were doing a company. The team lead for that particular team said that, okay, we have 4 breaking points. When we get here, we know that we have achieved 1/4 of where we need to get to. When we get to the second place, so what do we need to do? We need to ensure that at 1, 2, we are not at sixth position. Maybe we are at fifth, or maybe we are at fourth position. At number 3, by the time we cross the third pointer or the third mark, we know that we should either be in third position or second position. So for us to be able to for us to be the first position at the fourth marker, this is what we need to do, and for us to cross the finish line as victors, stuff like that. So how do I move from charging 5K per flyer to 25K per flyer? Conversations, things you need to document might revolve around maybe you need to change the people that know that you do design. So an example, I was to work on a project for Adebola Williams. I didn't get the gig eventually because something happened. But I was to work on a project for Adebola Williams. And when I was preparing my quotation, naturally, when I was preparing my quotation for the project, it was a design project. When I was preparing my quotation for the project, I think I put, I don't know, I think it was maybe between 150 to 300. And the person that referred me for the project looked at my quotation and was like, Tolu, are you mad? If you send a quote for a project like this to someone like this, do you think he would believe that you can do a quality job? And I was just thinking, and I was like, but like this is the amount I think it will cost for the project and everything. It was like, put another 0 in front. So so you might need to, and that's why when we started, I talked about access, or maybe communities or people you need to converse with, people you need access to, that might serve as the in-between. So who do you need to know and who needs to know you? That's an important part of your in-betweens. What type of conversations do I need to be having? That's an important part of your in-betweens. So moving to the next one. But can everyone hear me? My voice is it's sort of breaking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Which leads us to the next part of your in-betweens, identifying your audience. The people you'd serve are a core part of your roadmap. You can't travel in isolation, right? Therefore, there's a need to properly define your audience at each stage of your journey. So I said here, being able to identify who you need to serve at each stage of implementation would save you a lot of trouble. You don't need to focus on talking to everybody. So they call it audience segmentation. The art and act of putting people in their varying categories is termed audience segmentation, and it will help you know how to talk to people, or how to talk to your audience. You'd be able to define who are the next set of people I need to be talking to. I'm just going to use an example. I have a friend who is also a fashion designer, right? And in a conversation with me, he said that, Alpha, I want to move from 7 students to 7 working class. I was like, okay, so if you want to move from 7 students to 7 working class, what are some of the things that these said working class, and not that students are not working class, but it's talking about how did they call them? Is it millennials now, or the people that are old, the people that are like 35 to 40? I don't know this generation classification, but
Millennials.
okay, cool. They are called millennials, right? So he wanted to move from 7 Gen Zs, or like people in his age grade or and younger, to 7 millennials that will still definitely be able to afford pay what he's charging. And I asked him, so what are some of the conversations you've had with these people? And I was like, so one day, one guy saw me and he was like, what do you do? I told him I'm a tailor. And he was like, oh, would you be able to sew? And then he showed him like a design. Would you be able to sew this? And he's like, yes. And like, how much do you charge? And he said, 15K. And I was like, okay, so where's your shop? So he has had like 3-4 conversations with these persons or with people in that category. And the next question they ask is, where's your shop? And at the time, he was sewing from his house. And I told him that if you would want to serve this category of persons, you need to be able to meet them at where they are. So you need to start thinking of where you can use as your shop. And I'm like, you can start out by even creating maybe a place in your compound or a place in your house where people can come in to take their measurements or to pick up their clothes and stuff like that. Because that's what these guys like. They want to walk into a place and have everybody stare at them and be like, this guy don't come, he won't come so close. Like that impresses them. You know, students or someone like us who we value ease, we might want this tailor to come to our house to come and take our measurements, or we can meet somewhere to take our measurements. We don't really care, right? But millennials who are busy people, in quotes, they want to be able to walk into a shop and go home and tell their wife that, show more chicken wrap or show more alagbaka. Boy, come one. Sorry, my rice terrible. There's one boy at alagbaka, right? I went to his shop today. You need to see his shop. Very good shop. And I think he's doing well for himself. They need to come home and be able to talk about it in a conversation with their wife or with someone that they want to talk about it with. They need to be able to have conversations with a group of their friends and be like, so this clothes where I sew, you sabi the place where I saw, if you check that place, if you go like this, so they want to be able to, it's a form of pride. It's a form of, it's a sort of achievement to them when they have conversations in their circle and they are able to carefully or precisely tell their guys that go to XYZ place, you will meet this guy, he will show it for you at this amount. It's different from we will just be like, no worry, I will send you the guy number. So being able to identify your audience is also key in I want to talk to, or I want to move from any XYZ amount, or I want to move from can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I want to move from working at this kind of places to working at this kind of places. Who are the persons I need to start having conversations with? Any question before we move on to the next? So I'm taking each stage of drawing your roadmap. This is not like these are like summary of things you need to do, and that's why I'm asking if there are any questions per stage.
Sir, identify your audience. Does that mean like if after identifying them, like you know that these are your audience, does that mean that when other people come that are not in your audience bracket, like you won't get jobs from them?
Not particularly. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question so that you'd find the answer for yourself. You're a fashion designer, right?
Yes, sir.
Who do you sew for?
Young, majorly young people, young guys between the age of 18 to like 40.
All right. So it means that on a regular, the type of persons you want to see in maybe your shop, the type of persons you want to have conversations with are people in that category, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So, and you know that because you are serving that category, you would have a lot of variations for them. Do you understand what I said? Hello?
I can hear you now.
All right. So I said, because you are serving that particular audience consistently, or you want to serve that particular audience consistently, it means that more of your study, more of your research would be focused on that set of people, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it means if you're having a conversation with maybe a 35-year-old, let's say, okay, we're in Akures, maybe 35-year-old civil servant, a 40-year-old civil servant, or maybe a 40-year-old person who works maybe at a bank and needs a clothes for a wedding or an event, and you're conversing with him, you know, you'd be able to show him variations of clothes of people that look like him, which is more of what you would have maybe on your phone or in your catalog.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Cool. So does it mean that once in a while, if a 70-year-old man walks into your shop, you would not sew for him?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Like this, currently like this, I have that kind of issue because my dad friends, they want to make clothes for December, but they are not the kind of designs I make. I know the kind of designs that they like because they're elderly people. I make clothes that are fitted, clothes for young guys, and like this, it's as if I'm veering off because most of the works I have this December, they are the ones. Young guys don't really care about you making clothes for December. They just want to like make clothes at any time, like at their own leisure time. Anytime they will just want to make clothes, they want to make clothes. But then because it's festive period, they want to make clothes. And that's like the only clothes that is coming in now. So I'm now thinking, am I not going out of my target audience?
Now, you can have so that's why there's something called audience segmentation. You can have, so if you want to do your target audience, I'm going to breeze through this. So I hope you are able to catch everything I say. So if you want to breeze through, if you want to do your target audience, firstly, your target audience is everybody that wears clothes and that would need to wear clothes.
Okay, so
whether young or old, and whether they are alive or dead. Do you hear me?
yes.
Cool. So that's your target audience. Now, when you break down this audience category, when you break it down, like when you really, really sit down to break it down, you can now have a set of people. You can say, oh, between the age of 18 to 40 are my primary audience. This is their high time. They like sewing clothes within this period to this period. Within the age of 40 to maybe 70, they are my secondary audience. This is when they like sewing clothes. They like sewing clothes around festive periods. So I would then, within the age of maybe people older than that or younger than that, this is when they like to sew clothes. So you know that within, let's say, February to October, the conversations I'm going to be having or the orders I want to be coming in should be orders from 18 to 40, from this age group of 18 to 40. Now, definitely, it doesn't mean that in this period, I'm going to shut out my my father's friends. I know that
Yes.
Christmas is coming, or this is Easter, or this is the time that they used to do Owambe. I'm already greeting them around September or August. I'm already greeting them. I'm telling them, say that is Owambe was. Is there a party that you are preparing for? I don't forget me this Christmas. So that, you know, then you're already sending him designs that look like what he would want. Because you know that the high time for this, your secondary audience, is coming. So I should start communicating with them. So,
okay, sir.
As the festivities is closing out, you are back to your schoolboys that are coming back to school that wants to look peng for this party, this party, this party. You're already posting on your status. Hey, Ashen is doing exclusive something, something, something. This is for guys that are returning to school, something, something like that. You started conversing with these people. You know, the other category of people, they don't view your status. There are people you'd have to either maybe walk into their office or go and greet them somewhere, or maybe send a message to their DM or call them. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
Now, so this is how you can be able to partition who you need to serve per time. So this is why I said being able to identify who you need to serve at each stage of implementation would save you a lot of trouble. So it means that when you're shopping between February to October, you're shopping for these guys, these 18 to 40. The materials you are looking at, the ideas you are working on, the research you are doing, the new style you want to design, you know that this set of people would like it. In December, you're looking for plain material. The one that did not really used to shout, because
Yes, sir.
they just want to wear clothes. It will be fine, but they just want to wear clothes. Maybe you now have 4 of them who want to wear matching clothes. You know that is one long plain material you just go and buy. So very simple style, but then put cap with it. Maybe it's the cap you now decorate with embroidery, because when they put the cap to one side and their friends see this, these clothes. You've gotten them. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir. Very well, sir.
So being able to break down your audience category saves you a lot of stress. And it's something I practicalize. I have a few people I still do designs for, even though I don't design, because there are certain periods in the year that they've repeatedly needed certain designs. So close to that period, I just enter their DM. Hello, sir, how's everything going? I just thought to check up on you and see how you're doing. How's work? How's everything? Bye, sir. I did not ask them for work, but I just came up in their mind. Next week, the next month, hey, Alpha Tolu, do you still design? I'm like, yes, I still design. I'm like, I have an urgent. Their projects are usually urgent. Like, they'll tell me today they need it tomorrow, or they need it next tomorrow. But me, I've started preparing ahead of time that these people, they might start calling, and their money usually come in at very timely times. So these are people that I do flyer design for 25K, because you want to rush my spirits. I'm like, this is it. And I know, voila, just send me the design, send me account number. Very cool money at very needed time. And I'm off. And I know to the next year, and then there's a way so we are still going to touch that. There's a way I still keep in touch with them to ensure that we have a working relationship. So it's designed. So it's not really it's not like I need to be sending them free clothes, or for as a tailor, you can maybe sew a material during Christmas and send to your maybe high paying clients or something and tell them, oh, thank you, Merry Christmas. Or you send maybe a white shirt to them, something that would not cost you much. If it's something that will cost you much, fine. If that's what you're targeting, but you can send a white shirt or maybe a kaftan or maybe just a top that they can wear and maybe write Christmas messages and give them. And then that's something you can do as a fashion designer. Or you show a new style and you send it to them first to test. It makes them feel exclusive. It makes them feel important. Any other question before we move on to the next stage? Apologies. In 1 hour though. I'm apologizing. Normally it's supposed to be 1 hour. Apologies for taking more of your time.
Yeah, I'm not complaining, no.
Same here, I'm not complaining.
I have a question. Okay, so for someone like me, I'm a brand designer, and yes, I know that I'm undercharged, and I really want to upgrade, upskill, because I know my work is good. So you were talking about how I should have some kind of conversations. Like, how do I navigate through all this? I think that's the question I've been having on my mind. Like, so I know this is not what I want. So how do I get to this place I want to get to? So that's my question.
All right. What do you currently charge for a brand design project? Or that's not an important question. Sorry. Who knows you do brand design?
My friends. I have had a couple of.
Okay,
Sir?
Your friends.
Yes.
What's the earning capacity of your friends? Like,
well,
if they take an average of all of you salary, what's all of you regular earnings? How much is it?
Some of them earn way better than I do.
Okay,
so I can say from 700K, but I don't earn as much. I don't earn as much because aside from brand design, I do graphic design. So let me say like a month, the range I earn a month is like 200K or 180. So
right,
I don't brand design projects. I just get like graphic design. So, but I really want to leave that stage. So that's me. But I know some of my friends, they just focus on brand design, so they earn better. So that's for me personally.
Hello?
Did you get what I said?
No, I didn't.
Oh, where did I stop that you heard?
I heard some of my friends,
Yes, they earn better than me because they focus more on brand design. So I don't always get brand design projects. So majority of where my money comes from are more of graphic design projects, just graphic design, social media designs.
all right.
So that's, yes.
I have another question.
Okay.
You do brand design?
Yeah.
So that's a very important question. Who knows you do brand design? Your friends know you do graphic design, brand design, but I'm presuming your friends are also graphic designers and brand designers.
Yeah. Yes.
So if I am your friend, Blessing,
yeah,
and I 700K brand design job, I would not give it to you.
Okay. Why?
Because I do brand design and I am looking for money.
Oh. Wow.
It's not, I don't hate you, but I'm also looking for money.
Yeah.
The only reason I would give you a job is because I don't want to do it. Maybe it's not up to what I would do, or maybe there's a lot on my plate. And sometimes I'll even collaborate with you so that I'll still get a cut out of it. Now, who needs brand designers? Are you talking conversations, people that you need to have conversations with? Your audience, they might not be your primary audience. Your primary audience might be people who need brand designers. The secondary audience might be people who knows the people that needs brand designers. So you're talking to, if you want to do brand design, you're talking to brand strategists, maybe, or brand consultants, people who work freelance and do strategy. They offer strategy as a service to businesses. Those people, a majority of them don't design. What they do is that they have a network of people that are either their friends or of people who do brand design, that when there's a project, they call them up. Hey, how far? I am working on a client's project. I'm at the design stage. I need someone that will be able to help me implement this strategy at so stage. Those are people to be having conversations with. Those are people that need to know that you do brand design.
Okay. Wow.
So brand consultants, people that know founders, or people that know founders or business owners, because one of my friends, he knows a lot of founders, and that's how and that is how he has been getting steady jobs, right? What he does is just to connect with founders on LinkedIn, have conversations with them, blah, blah, be friends with them, be cool with them, know what they know, care about what they care about, even if I don't know if he genuinely cares about it, but this new company I want to start up. Oh, I'm thinking of doing it. Oh, we're at we are raising, or we're at this social stage, and we need a designer who can design an identity for us. Oh, there's one girl, she's my friend. I've been seeing her work recently. Let me link you up to her. That's how you get another job. So the people who need to know that you do design, your friends are cool, yes, they will support you. They will be your ride or die. They can collaborate on projects with you. They can share tips on how to do a brand design better, but they would mostly not give you jobs because they do exactly what you do, and they are also looking for money. So in my circle of friends, I am the only one who offers strategy or brand communication exclusively. They know strategy, they can design, but I am the only one who does not position himself as a designer. So if you need to work on a strategy document, you're going to send it to Tolu, and you are going to give Tolu part of your money. So that's how you can position yourself in your circle of friends. So I imagine that most of the graphic design projects you have are something that maybe your friends refer. Oh, I know someone who does. Have a blessing. If you do this graphic, this flyer, they'll be like, okay, yes. And I imagine I might be wrong. But I imagine those are the type of projects that come. That's how you get your graphic design projects. Someone, your friend refers you to someone talks about the graphic design. Your friend talks about, oh, Blessing can do it. Let me send your contact to Blessing, and let me send Blessing your contact, or stuff like that. Are we cool?
Yeah, yes, yeah, cool. Although I work as a designer with an agency aside from freelance side gigs. Yeah.
That's cool too. You can get another job too.
I am looking for another job.
No wahala. But you can put that into use, into practice. Outline a number of persons you want to have conversations with, and or you want to meet, or you want to connect with, and then work at connecting with them and ensuring that they know what you do.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi,
Moving
Tolu.
on. Hey, Jesus Christ. Yes, hi.
I'm sorry. I kind of joined late. I'm so sorry. The time difference thing, I totally forgot. I'm so sorry about that. But I have a
Wow.
question. So, and it's about audience segmentation. So, now, is it possible to have a messaging that can speak to different audiences at the same time? Or do I have to like make the messaging to one audience per time? Let me explain what I mean actually. So, I talked about something yesterday where I talked about helping coaches and consultants communicate their offers clearly. Now, there's something that I wish to do, although it might be more of a future thing. I don't know when it's going to start or something, but I want to help existing brands that have products, big brands, right, to do strategy. So now I know that the messaging to that kind of people, those kind of people, is going to be different to the messaging of service providers. Do you get my point?
Yeah, I get your point.
Yeah. So is it possible to like incorporate both messaging into one, or I have to like do it time by time? Like, okay, this time I'm focusing on these people, and then this messaging I'm focusing on these people.
So you can do that. You can communicate part-time. So you want to help big brands sell, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So one thing I hear that is common to all of them is sales. So your messaging just needs to highlight and emphasize sales. Doesn't necessarily. Now, when you are communicating to them individually, you can be more specific. I would help you move. I would help you sell holiday water bottles, or I'll help you times 2 your sales of holiday water bottles. That maybe talking to a company that sells holiday water bottles. But if you're sending a general messaging to them, it can be I would help you times 2 your sales year on year. So you need to find a common. So in your target audience, there needs to be a common factor. You get?
Yeah, I'm getting you actually. Is it my network or something?
No, I'm here.
Oh,
So
okay.
in communicating with your target audience, there needs to be a common a common factor. Like when I was giving the example with Ashan, one thing that's common to all of them is that they want to wear clothes, they wear clothes, and they need to wear clothes. So your messaging can be around something you are emphasizing in clothing, maybe comfortability, elegance, whatever. Because at different stages, elegance means different things to different people. So now, when you now begin to communicate part-time to each of these category of people, you can now define elegance based on what you've observed that they define elegance by. But on a large scale of things, when you talk about elegance, all of them understands what elegance means in context of how they interpret it. But when you are going into that particular audience segmentation, you now begin to speak their language. It's the same way when Coca-Cola was doing their campaign, share a Coke with Keniko. In America, or in the US rather, you would not see names like Latifa on the Coke bottle, or Zainab on the Coke bottle, or Chinedu on the Coke bottle. But it's a singular message that they are passing across to all their to their audience, no matter where their audience was in the world, which was you should share a bottle of Coke, right, with somebody that you love, or with someone that's, with maybe with a friend or with a colleague. But when they brought it down to geography, they began, even in Nigeria, in the South, I was in Port Harcourt then. I did not see a bottle that says share a Coke with Jide. I was saying share a Coke with Chinedu. I was saying share a Coke with Okafor. Because that is what they could identify with. Because majority of the people there, you would find an Okafor and someone will run all the way from his house to his friend's house because the bottle of Coke that he bought has his friend's name on it. And when I came to the Southwest, when I came to Ondo State, still within that period, I started saying share a Coke with Bimbo, share a Coke with Zainab, because in the Southwest there's a mix of both Christians and Muslims, right? In the South there's a majority of Christian communities there, which the majority of them are also Catholics, right? Igbo people, they are Catholics. I don't know how it happened. Majorly Catholics and Anglicans. So they did their research and they had that. I've very recently also I watched a Coca-Cola documentary. It's where they were celebrating the LGBTQ community in Brazil, and they had this saying in Brazil that Coke is not Fanta, right? Which was to discriminate the LGBT community. So when Coca-Cola wanted to celebrate Pride Day in Brazil, they actually made an exclusive product where you would open a Coca-Cola bottle and you would see Fanta. And they told them that Coke is actually Fanta, just for that period of time, just to connect with them. Do you get? So you can have a singular messaging that cuts across a common pain point for all the people in your target audience. Now, when you now want to speak to them individually, that's why I mentioned categorizing them. This is my primary target audience. This is my secondary, or these are my primary customers. These are my secondary customers. These are my tertiary customers, or this is a customer group A, B, C, D. As much as you want to categorize them based on maybe research or based on some form of commonality, right? You can do that. So it helps you be able to talk part-time to those set of people. You get.
Yeah, thank you so much. I got that.
Thank you. There'll be no questions again till let me finish. For
Do
I have a number of things that I still need to cover, and apologies for taking so much of your time, guys. So okay. What I wanted to speak on, but I think I've touched it a bit. This last part, this helps you know how best to craft your messaging. So in crafting your messaging, just like I think I've touched on it already, segmenting your audience or putting your audience in categories helps you to know exactly what you need to tell them. Now, you need to define your messaging in such a way that it affects their everyday life. It's something that they would be concerned about. Just like the illustration I gave about the Coke is not Fanta narrative that was used, that Coca-Cola had to create an exclusive product in celebration of Pride Day. So in that period, almost anybody who bought a Coke, either a canned Coke or a plastic Coke, but they majorly used canned Coke because you couldn't see the content. I either bought any of their products at that moment in that period would have Fanta. So if you bought a canned Fanta, you'd see Coke inside. If you bought a canned Coke, you see Fanta inside. So it's just a subtle way to tell them that, hey, we're actually with you guys and we do not discriminate, right? And all of that stuff. It was also to address racism too, in one way, right? Because Brazil has a mixed race. Like they have Brazilians who are just white. We have Brazilians who are just black, and we have people who fall somewhere in the middle. So To define your message, right, you have to identify the core of your roadmap and intersect between where you are and where you want to be. So your messaging should not be divergent from what you actually represent and what you want your audience to perceive you as, right? You have to have a central theme that defines your whole brand. And that's why I asked yesterday that if people want to describe you, what are some of the things that you'd want them to say? Now, they might not say those exact words, but any word that they would be using should be close to this. Should be close to this. So you can have that word bank and begin to work your ass off to ensure that when people talk about you, they talk about you in this certain way, in this certain light. And I've prepared some strategy documents where we did not define the brand by a word. We define the brand by the feeling that we want people to have when they interact with the brand. So in the brand definition, we had sentences there. We're like, so when XYZ interacts with this particular brand, their response should be, oh my God. Their response should be, wow. So, and to test it out, right, we just worked on a bit of a project and sent it out to some people. And like, this thing, they blow brains. You know, it's not, oh my God, but it fits into the category of, oh my God. It fits into the category of, wow. And then we sent it to some other set of people and they're like, oh, cool, impressive. It fits into the category of, wow. It fits into the category of, oh my God. Do we get? So now,
Yes,
moving
sir.
on. Building a low. Sorry, my voice has not been the best lately. Building a loyal customer base. This takes time, but it's something that if you're doing strategy, you'd have to aim towards having people that will root for you, whether or not you're in the room. And they do not have to be people you directly serve. But it's best if they are people you directly serve. Community loyalty is key, is a key essential in implementing strategy. Now, you can either join a community or build one for yourself. But from experience, being a part of a community or gaining access to an already existing community is a good strategy. Now, how do you gain access to an already existing community? I'll give an example. In 2020, I read a book, The Third Door by Alex Banayan. And the book preached, or the book emphasized a unique way of doing things that everybody does, right? It says, it's in the opening story, it says that in life there are two doors. The door, that life is just like a club, and when you go to a club, there are two doors. There's the front door where everybody goes in through, and then there's the VIP door where people who have the black card or VIP passes go in through. But nobody realizes that there's the third door, a back door, a door that is unconventional, that nobody would expect anybody that is sane to go through that route, and that is the kitchen door. And you know that, but if you are able to, that you might have to, and he said that you might have to fight off, or you might have to hide from the kitchen attendants. You might have to maybe fight off a bomb or a madman at the back alley to get to the kitchen door. But you'd face sincere obstacles. But when you get into the club, nobody asks you which door you used to come into the club. Whether you're in the VIP section or you are in the general hall, nobody really cares how you got into the club. Because at this point in time, everybody is listening to the same music and everybody has access to the same quality of drinks. So getting access to certain communities, I think this has played a key role in my career advancement. And that's why I ensure I put it whenever I talk about the work I do. Because if certain set of people do not know that I do the work I do, I would not be able to advance as fast as I did career-wise. So practically, this is what I did. In 2020, I wrote out a list of persons I wanted to meet. About 20 people. And I cold DM'd all of them and told them that I wanted to throw a party for them. So the party was going to be in a location where they were familiar with. So it's going to be in Lagos. I was living in Akure then. I still live in Akure now. And then I linked up with someone. I shared the idea on Twitter and someone offered to help me. And I linked up with her. She helped me with in terms of logistics, printing, getting gifts and souvenirs, getting a venue for the place. I just sent money. And then I was not earning a lot. Then I was earning, I mentioned yesterday I was earning 30K in 2020. So I had to save a lot to ensure that, and maybe borrow some small money, to ensure that that party worked out. And my friend asked me, it was like, Tolu, you're spending a lot of money on this. I think I spent between 150 to 200 or 250K on it. And I still don't know where the money came from. Well, I hustle the hustle. But in putting everything together, and my friend told me that, Tolu, you are spending a lot of money on this. What's your ROI on it? I'm like, what is really, I'm not expecting any money from it. Or I'm not, what exactly I am expecting. It will improve the quality of work, or it will improve the access. It will improve my access to certain opportunities that I would never have gotten, or that that would take me, that would make it, or that would be difficult for me to have. And on that list is a few persons some of us might know in this. On that list was Victor Fatomi, Tunji, what's her name? I forgot. But there was Charles Njoku and a number of persons on that list. And out of 20 that I invited, 15 showed up. And some other people brought some other people that they came. And I left an impression. Like, I knew I left an impression because I took feedback. I'm like, so I hit them up later and I'm like, hey, how was it? And they were like, guy, nobody would have thought of this. Really cool, and stuff like that. Now, directly or indirectly, some of the opportunities I have gotten to work in certain places and to see some certain things has been because of that environment, or has been because of that platform I created. So now it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go ahead and throw a party for all the people you want to meet. But as a fashion designer, can you sew clothes? Can you profile people you want to meet and maybe get their sizes and send them a gift, an anonymous gift, and maybe leave your card in it and tell them, thank you for all you do. Love, Kinikon, or regards, Kinikon. As a brand designer, can you hit up some certain people and tell them, hey, I would really like to work on a project with you or for you for free. I just admire the work you do, and I was hoping that I would be able to contribute or give to you as you've given back to the community. It can be anything. As someone who wants to do sales for big brands, can you maybe scrub through their data or their earnings for the last maybe 5 years and make a projection, a documentation that shows the projection of how they can improve their earnings in X number of years? They might have that document, right? They might ignore it, but you can find a category of businesses who would pay attention to that and they would be interested. Now, what do I mean? If it's, let's say you want to help Coca-Cola improve their sales, naturally people think it's a stupid idea because Coca-Cola definitely has maybe a chief branding officer and a chief marketing officer for all its regions in the world. But Coca-Cola has tiny competitors in these areas of the world. Take an estimate or study Coca-Cola's sales record, because sometimes they make all of this data public. Use it and study their competitors' sales record. Maybe a small startup that is coming on that wants to enter the beverage industry, and show them that, hey, if you do this, like this, you'd be able to X your earnings by this amount and submit a free proposal to them. Now, most times, they do not have persons who can implement such ideas on their team. Sometimes they have, and they'll just tell you thank you, and they'll go on ahead and implement your idea, right? Don't take offense, you give them as a gift. Some other times, they don't have such persons, and they'll call you in, like, hey, how far? I heard this, you sent this in, can we have a conversation? Now, I know it works because Feromi, who worked at Carrywise, this is what he did to get into Carrywise. He shared the story with me, right? And it was one of the people on my list in 2020. So you can look for unconventional way to sow a seed of, should I call it trust, or to sow a seed of, oh, I might not have the access yet, but I definitely know what I am doing. And if you give me the access, I won't abuse it. It's just a subtle way to tell them that you are putting in the work, and to ensure that people who need to know that you are doing this stuff actually know. So this was how I got access to certain sets of people. And now I can hit them up. Now I can see strategy documents of, I can ask Victor, hey, Alpha, I'm working on a certain project. Have you guys worked on XYZ project related to this? Do you have anything you can share with me? And he might send in something. I have a mentor in Microsoft who sends me communications blueprints that are confident. This call is on record. Oh shit. But yeah, he sends me some documents and I go through it. And it's document that on a regular day, I won't have access to it. Like, there's no way I can even have access to it. But reading through that and being able to asking questions back is all the help I need in my next job interview. So directly, they might not say, hey, Tolu, come and work on this project. But in my next job interview, conversations I've had with them proves to be useful in convincing this particular company that I can do this work, and I'm also worth the amount that I'm calling for you. That's it. Any questions? I hope your money was worth it. Any questions?
Okay, Tolu, so this thing you talked about sewing in a company. So I think 2 months or 3 months ago, there was this company that reached out to me, and they asked me that, can I develop a strategy? In fact, 2 self, not just one. So the first one, it was the CEO of the company that reached out to me, that he saw my page on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. And he asked me questions that, okay, how do I think they can do this and do that? That they want to know if they can hire me, they have interests and all of that. And then I gave them stuff. And my dear, they implemented everything without calling me back. And the next one, so this one, when I learned from the first one, they asked for a strategy brief, and I gave them a brief, but I just gave two options out of the 10 options I had. They still implemented the 2 without calling me back. So I just decided, maybe I'm not just going to give any info out until people pay me and stuff. But then sometimes I realize that it's when you give out the free ones that you get the paid people. So it's just, I don't know. Do you get?
So they implemented it, right?
Yes.
You saw results.
Yes.
Hit up the
And there was,
CEO.
there was no credits.
Hit up the CEO and they say, hey, what's good? Nice work on XYZ campaign that you pulled. You have
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes. Let's talk about it. So I really liked how you worked on this particular idea. Yeah, you are fully aware it's your idea, but
Yeah.
talk about how the implementation process how the implementation process went. Commend them on their effort in putting it, in bringing it to life, and you leave an impression on them. So the goal the goal is that most times we want to, we want to sometimes get directly from the persons that we gave gifts to. We want them to hire us. Maybe it's our dream company, right? We want them to hire to do the work for them. But just like I mentioned, they might have a team on ground that can readily implement this, and there might not just be space to hire you. Two, they might have a team on ground that is already thinking in that direction, and your document only brought clarity to them. Three, they might not even have a team on ground. They might go ahead to hire an external person because they believe that they will not be able to afford you. So those are three conditions I put to the front whenever such things happen. So, okay. And at the end of the day, it comes back one way or the other. It comes back in one of the ways it comes back is if you're able to still keep in touch with them and reach out and get feedback on how they implemented it, on how the strategy, because implementing strategy is not plug and play.
Yeah.
There are things that they tweaked. There are things that they maybe didn't do. There are things that they revised to ensure that it worked for their company. It's useful information you don't have, even though you're the one that created the strategy document. Get that information. It will be useful in your next conversation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions? I can take one more because it's almost 3 o'clock. Blessing, Olayinka.
Well, I don't know. I think I've exhausted my questions, and yeah, thank you so much. The class was amazing.
All right, thank you so much. I love to hear that. It gives me morale to do another class and put money on it again. All right then. So finally, I told you I am an anime fan. All your learning consummates here. If you're not able to break all your learning into actionable points, then that's all you have, theories. The bane of online classes is the fact that most times we take the knowledge and we do not put them to practice. We do not put pen to paper. So I would want that you put pen to paper, you try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, then hit me up. If it does, still hit me up, right? Because I would like to know that it works. You can try some things. If you have questions, I am available on all social media platforms, and I am available via email too, right? You can drop them in. We can get to talk much more on how we can help you do what you do better, right? So thank you so much, everyone. I am really, really grateful for the opportunity to be able to share my knowledge with us. So You can talk about the class on Twitter and tag me. You can talk about it on LinkedIn and tag me. Give me small rep or push or farms me small, any one of the three. And you can decide not to talk about me, right? Or talk about the class. But all the same, because definitely you paid for the class and you can decide to do with your money whatever you want to do with your money. And I mean that in the most respectful way possible, because sometimes it's easy to misconstrue. But yes, thank you so much. Ayomide, Olayinka, and Blessing. Thank you for showing up. And do have an amazing day. And yeah, so I'll share the recordings between tomorrow and Monday, because my Saturday is actually very packed. I should have been somewhere an hour ago, but I needed to ensure that I did justice to the outline that I created. And I would also share the outline with you. I'll share the outline I created for the class with you. It's not so different from the slides, but there are a few points here that I didn't get to include in the slides, but I talked about them. So having this and alongside the recording of the class might be able to help put everything in perspective. Yeah, so thank you very much. That would be the end. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. It was nice meeting Blessing and Olayinka.
Yeah, you guys can connect. You can collect number and LinkedIn profile. What do you say?
Sir, I didn't get that.
I said you can get to meet each other, collect